Thank you for joining us today. Our team was assigned representing about Chapter 2, which covers the political, legal, and technological environment. My name is Felipe Ramirez, and before we get started, I will let my team introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Griffith.
Hello, I'm Arade Rocha.
George Gonzalez.
All right, and now that we have properly introduced ourselves, let's go ahead and get started with the presentation. So moving on to the agenda. So Chapter 2 was surprisingly a very interesting read because it really went into the details of how governments work and how that influences business, which is something that us as students do not usually get the opportunity to learn about. But because of our major, it is important to have some sort of knowledge about how business works, not just in the United States, but around the world. So to start it off, we decided to break down our agenda into two parts. And for the first part of the presentation, it will be covering certain sections in the chapter, which are the political environment, the legal environment, ideologies, principles of international law, and legal and regulatory issues. And for the next slide, we're going to be looking at the second part of our agenda, which it will be focusing on topics such as trends and advancements of technology, e-business, biotechnology, telecommunications, and then we have a couple questions which correlate with the topic, and then a couple videos in order to interact with the audience, or in this case, the class. So moving on to the next slide, we have a little fun fact or thoughts for the presentation, which is that common law is the type of law most commonly used by many countries. The chapter 2 goes into the list of countries that use this type of law. A few examples are the United States, Australia, and Canada. But in the United States, Louisiana is known for using civil or code law, which can be rather weird as not really commonly used. Moving on to the next slide, we're going to be talking about an ideology. And this is a question that I want to leave to the audience, which is, what is an ideology? What is something that you know, or what is something that you heard about? Okay, so an ideology, according to the textbook, is a set of ideas which has an influence on how a country conducts its business and creates their policies. Chapter 2 has a great focus on these ideals, of which we're going to be focusing on right now. So the political environment of each country is largely based on the ideologies that each government has, with those being individualism, collectivism, and socialism. So the first one, individualism, the book states that it provides more freedom to the people to pursue freedom, happiness, and riches. And with this type of ideology, it is believed that the government should have little to no involvement when it comes to the dealings of the people. So basically, a lot of freedom. This is really found in the United Kingdom, is known for having this type of ideology. They really believe that when it comes to business or public things like that, the people should have a little bit more freedom. But this is just an example for its use. Now, the next one is going to be collectivism. Collectivism believes in helping the majority of society rather than pursuing one's own self-interest. This is accomplished by sacrificing individual rights, such as the right to own personal property, which is instead commonly owned, so that society will benefit from that right. An example of collectivism would be kind of like a park, so public places that a lot of people can benefit from something like that. And for the final one would be socialism. In a socialist environment, everything is owned and run by the government. And this type of ideology is based on the philosophies of Karl Marx, who believes that it would be more fair if the government was in control in order to avoid wrongdoings. And socialism, as you know, when you look at North Korea or in other countries where there's a lot of censorship, so it doesn't always work, but it's really evolved from what it was back then. And now we're going to move on to the next slide, and I'm going to be leaving it off to Benjamin to take over the presentation.
Thank you, Philippe. So hello, I'm Benjamin, and I'll be talking about the legal and regulatory environment. Laws around the world are based in four foundations, which are the following: Islamic law, socialist law, common law, and civil or code law. Like Philippe mentioned, in Louisiana, civil or code law is most famously used by France and other non-Islamic countries, although it is found in other parts of the world. Common law is used in many countries which have either a democracy or a monarchy. It is based on English law. Socialist law is found in communist countries such as Cuba, China, and North Korea. which is based on Marxist socialist systems. When it comes to Islamic law, many of the laws that have set in place come from the teachings of religious beliefs of the Quran. This type of law is most common in Islamic countries. What are the principles of international law? So I'll give you a few moments to write down your thoughts and ideas, and then we'll transition into the next slide. For this next slide, we're going to have the interactive activity part of your handout, where you'll be filling in what you think the definition of the following terms will be: national principle, territorial principle, and protective principle. I'll give you a few moments to fill in the blank, and then I'll tell you what the definitions are. National principle is a jurisdictional principle of international law, which holds that every country has jurisdiction over its citizens, no matter where they are located. Territorial principle is a jurisdiction or principle of international law, which holds that every nation has the right of jurisdiction within its legal territory. The protective principle is a jurisdictional principle of international law, which holds that every country has jurisdiction over behavior that adversely affects national security, even in the conduct occurred outside that country. And now we're going to be going into the principles of international law. The different principles of international law are sovereignty and sovereign immunity, international jurisdiction, doctrine of commodity, act of state doctrine, and the forum for hearing and settling disputes. Sovereignty and sovereign immunity refers to the right that each government has the right to follow their own laws and rules. Therefore, if one of the foreign countries and the laws is going to be applied to them, the foreign country can utilize their own law. International jurisdiction consists of three types of jurisdictions, which are nationality, territorial, and protective principles. Doctrine of commodity is just common acknowledgement that one will follow and respect the laws of the country that they are in. Act of state doctrine refers to accepting that government have in regards to decisions that are made by other countries. Each country has to respect that decision or act made, even if it would not be in their own country. The forum for hearing and settling disputes is in extreme cases that happen out of the United States. U.S. courts can step in if enough evidence is provided so that they can escalate the case. Some examples of legal and regulatory issues are the Financial Services Regulation, Foreign Corruption Practices Act, bureautization, and privatization. The Financial Services Regulation was needed after the 2008 financial crisis, when they needed to have more regulation in place. Foreign Corruption Practices Act was passed, the examples of legal and regulatory issues are on the screen. I'll give you a few moments to read over them before I transition the next slide over to Aurelie to talk about what e-business is.
Thank you, Benjamin. Okay, so does anyone know what e-business is? I'll give you a few seconds to jot down any ideas that you might have of what it is. Okay, so in simple terms, e-business is basically an online commerce or online business. The two areas of e-business with the biggest impact on customers are e-retailing and financial services. Customers can perform business relations from across the phone with just their mobile device and a credit card. The internet has had a dramatic effect on the way international commerce is done. It has made it much more efficient and easier to access. However, because almost anything, if not everything, is so easy to find online nowadays, information security is a big problem. There is a lot of personal information that is transferred and stored digitally, so this can be a risk to customers since there can be a breach. Although, even with this risk, e-business is still conducted every day at any hour. The most popular form of e-business is business to business or B2B. Orders can be placed with suppliers worldwide at any time, and customers have easy access to it. Because of this, electronic retailers or e-tailers found that their homegrown retailing expertise can be transferred and adapted for the international market. E-tailers know that there is a large attraction to e-businesses, so they have adapted to this new and expanding environment. In this next slide, I want to ask you, I would like to ask you, what was the last thing you bought online? Because some examples of e-businesses include Amazon. I know that many of you, if not almost all of you, have bought something at least once on Amazon or have an Amazon account. Amazon is used by hundreds of millions of people worldwide every day. The company is operating in 16 countries around the world. There are millions of purchases being made every day, and you can find almost anything on Amazon, from groceries to clothes to household essentials to electronics. Any good can be purchased on Amazon. Another example would be Tesla. Tesla, is an automaker company that has adapted to this new digital era. They now sell most of their cars to their customers directly through the internet. I'd like to show you how easy it can be to access Amazon and the Tesla website. So on Amazon, you can shop for anything that you would like. For example, in this picture, if I would want an iPad, I can get it as soon as within a week, and it can be delivered right to my home. And all I have to do is place order and enter my credit card or debit card information. As for this next slide, the Tesla example, I can also even order a car online. I can go into the Tesla website, choose my model, how I would like to pay it. If I would like to lease it, loan it, or own it, I can choose the model, the make, the color, the interior. I can design it my own, enter my credit card information, and click place order. It is as easy as entering credit card information, and I will soon have a car at my nearest Tesla dealership. So in this next video, I would like to show you that there could be effects, however, to online businesses or e-businesses. He's technology reporter at the Wall Street Journal, a CNBC contributor. And look, recalls happen all the time, Tim. How is this one significant? Is it more significant than others that we've heard? Well, for years now, there's been questions about the safety or the capabilities of Tesla's ADAS systems. These systems that aren't fully self-driving, but they're more advanced in cruise control, the basic cruise control you have. Elon Musk has for years said that it improves the safety of the vehicles, but there have been critics out there saying that they lull drivers into thinking the car can do more than they can do. And so this NHTSA report, these findings suggest that there were some certain scenarios where the car might act in a way where the driver couldn't take over fast enough to avoid a crash or potentially break the law. So, fixing this in the software a lot easier than, say, having to bring it into a car dealership like a Chevy would do and have to change mechanical things, have to put in new equipment or something like that. So, kind of in short, kind of a win for Tesla because it doesn't have to turn the system off, it doesn't have to do any mechanical changes, but a black eye because of the system's defaults.
What has Tesla said about the defaults? They agree with the government's assessment of it? Well, they would disagree. They pushed back on the government with the government's findings, but went forward with the voluntary recall here, which is often the case in these things when the NHTSA is going to do this. It's either do voluntary or it can become much more messy down the road. So, going back to Tesla traditionally says that these systems are safer than what the human can do. That's maybe perhaps in debate. Sometimes we don't understand where their data is coming from, but I guess to kind of the core of these systems, are they about safety or are they about convenience? The criticism continues to be about Tesla and other systems like it, is that the driver thinks the system can do more than it is. It is not fully self-driving. The robot is not in control. The driver needs to be in control, needs to take back that wheel, needs to be engaged in the driving scenario. And oftentimes they get lulled into thinking the car is doing more than it actually is. Were there any accidents involved with this? Yeah, there were a few. Tesla told the government they didn't think any fatalities. That we know that the government is looking for other crashes involving Tesla's ADAS system that have involved fatalities. So it's hard to say if this is the end of the story. In reality, as we look at Tesla and other companies coming out of these systems, we're probably going to see a lot of these kind of software tweaks in years to come, just because this is a very dynamic environment. Tesla is updating its system on a constant basis, trying to improve it. What other companies are doing things along these lines? Who else is going to be closely watching this? Well, this kind of technology is on the cusp of becoming ubiquitous. Tesla has been the most aggressive in pushing forward the capabilities and kind of marketing in a way that it seems like a hands-free system, even though it's not. We see GM out there with its Super Cruise. This is a system that has some more procedures in place to try to keep the driver engaged and has the ability to monitor the driver's eyes, make sure they're paying attention to the road. And Ford is out with a similar system. Really, most car companies are pushing towards this, and the question is, over time, how much more advanced are they going to become? We're going to be moving beyond, cruise control to something more dramatic.
Okay, so as you can see, this is a problem that could be with online businesses. For now, I would like to transition over to George.
So my topic is going to be the trends and advancements of technology. So what technology has done and the aspect of global management. For recent years, it had great leaps of innovation in both computing, robotics, within all these companies, especially for the Department of Defense. For instance, DARPA is one of the most innovative companies out there for the U.S. Army, Navy, and etc. DARPA is in charge of both AI and robotics that has led much of the new technologies that we currently utilize. Some of these technologies could also be 5G, which is currently in a lot of the iPhones and all these Samsungs we currently have at the moment, which was formerly a military use and application. And AI has also been built for a lot of the resources that we currently use. For instance, TikTok, social media, that we currently utilize as our data and information that can predict what we will be interested in having to will be liking to see throughout the entire time scrolling in our experience in utilizing these social media platforms. Not only that, but also having to see what kind of ads could be put into our accounts and whatnot. But yeah, AI has also been a huge part of a lot of these social media platforms, and is continued to be being used and innovated, and including the application of AI. We've also had the concern over having interference of our phones when it comes to AI, being our data to be taken from foreign companies that currently concern the Department of Defense. And at the moment, the Army is, every part of every government installation and government workers not allowed to have TikTok in their phones and every bit of their any form of hardware or software that they might own for the company. Even their personal use is currently attempted to be banned. Currently, for the government applications, they're banned, and currently for the civilian application, they're attempting to regulate and to minimize the amount of data that can be taken from all of our devices. So it's more recently been intrusive and been informing a lot of foreign adversaries about our culture and about our demographics. And, next slide. Biotech, currently a lot of biotech is being implemented within the farming industry and has also been used for all sorts of GMOs and etc. It's been very effective in having to grow our products and having to grow fruits and vegetables in the way we currently having to consume and whatnot, and also having to track what type of vegetables and consumptions we may have consumed and so forth. And as it says here, biotech refers to the implication of technology in nature. So technology has certainly been innovating in the atmosphere of farming, which has helped out a lot of agriculture and whatnot. So yeah, we still continue to use a lot of these and many applications to the farming industry. And we'll see as to what this video entails.
Or how a cotton field produces more fluffy cotton. It was way back some years ago. Before, when you buy corn, there's an 80% chance that your corn has a worm inside. How did it happen that today's corn don't have worms? It's somehow evolution, but specifically, it's biotechnology. Let's talk about biotechnology. Biotechnology is a science that is based on biology. Every life form is made of DNA, which are the building blocks of every life form. Modifying these building blocks through biotechnology turn healthier. At the same time, this is things from bugs and beasts. Manipulating these building blocks in a living way, we can help the foods that can improve health and have common players hold in the eye with a little bit so that we can feel by the person. Biotechnology has a lot of things in many ways. This is in the medical field, we just make the vitamins. We might certain postcards to our body. Imagine an office where most of the food we eat is filled with vitamins and minerals. These food can be given to less fortunate people where they can combat malnutrition. So, isn't it? Through biotechnology, there can be healthier food to fight malnutrition in the country. There can be higher crops. Crops make healthy farmers. Helps the agriculture economy flourish. Technology is everywhere. It helps us improve our lives and leads us to a healthier world.
What's all the buzz about? I got to see this short clip that I saw in NBC News earlier this morning that talks about the first honeybee vaccine and part of the
during the summer, but we desperately need these creatures. They are crucial for pollinating crops. How crucial? 1 out of every 3 bites of food you eat exists because of pollination. That's fresh protein, nuts, and just your cup of coffee. Think about it this way. Honeybees alone pollinate more than 100 types of fruits and vegetables. But a bacterial disease called American foul brood is now destroying bee colonies at alarming rates. Annette Kaiser, CEO of Gallant Animal Health, said something must be done.
Approximately 50% of beehives are estimate around the world. So it's really dormant for many decades. And all of a sudden, if there's another stressor, if there's anything else happening, it's But we know that from us, we can only set an expectation. That happens also to the bees.
Knowledge, there is no cure for this disease. Once foul brood is detected, beekeepers have to destroy the hive or use antibiotics, which can have some nasty side effects.
That comes with many problems, antibiotic resistance, contamination of honey, it improves the microbiome of the honeybees. They can get other diseases because the immune system is compromised.
But over the last few years, Annette and her team have developed a promising vaccine that the U.S. Department of Agriculture just conditionally approved.
We take the disease forming bug, when activated, we put it in something that's called queen candy. It's a sugar paste that is given to the queen. So if she's vaccinated, she passes that vaccine on to all the eggs that she lays in the entire colony.
Currently, Solana is seeking state-by-state approval for the vaccine, focusing on the large breeding areas like California and states along the Gulf Coast. And this is not just important for commercial beekeepers. This vaccine could be an absolute game changer for, well, all of us.
These animals are really critical, they're really important, and we all rely on them, and we have to take care of them. It's a real existential survival, critical issue for everybody around the world.
What are the biotechnology changes that are going on today?
Telecommunications. So the evolution of various forms of telecommunications have brought many opportunities for countries to negotiate and conduct business amongst one another. So we're able to have international business, and we can even manage businesses from abroad, allowing a lot of flexibility. And more recently, it has been most necessary for our predicament of COVID-19, where we were all needing to stay indoors. Telecommunications amongst having to quarantine, even while we were sick, it was very, very vital and very helpful, and which had us support a lot of our GDP amongst different countries and whatnot. And also to elaborate, which in the past it would have been something that was very difficult to do due to the state of technology and the time period. So back in the day, it wasn't so much possible. It was very hard to communicate between different forms of in operating. It was very difficult to communicate, as if it was not through phone, it was through mail. If it wasn't through mail, it was through having to interact with people in person. As far as that, and again, since telephone came along, since especially technology and the computing power has come along, it's really assisted us in having to communicate with one another, even at the micro level. So it's been very helpful to do so, and many forms of operating our companies and seeing how we were able to operate our strategy and tactics. Next slide. And our last slide is going to be questions and answers. If there's any comments, questions, or concerns, or any elaborations over our presentation, you could put it down in the comments below. Over the link, excuse me. And that'll be it. Thank you.
Thanks. Please give our video a thumbs up and favorite our channel.
Thank you.